EV, a vehicle you know, value you'd expect in a dealer right down the street.
Unafraid Show College Football Live. And today we got a lot to talk about. We got Ohio State versus Notre Dame and the narrative surrounding Ryan Day, Marcus Freeman, and about the ratings of the college football playoff. The SEC. Oh, the dominance is done. There are people that are dancing on their grave, and I'm going to explain to you why you had to slow the hell down. Boise State offensive coordinator and my former offensive coordinator, Dirk Koetter, he is levying tampering allegations against Oregon, and we're going to dig into that. And also, NIL agents. There was a video going around about NIL agents charging 20% to their clients. Yeah, we got to talk about that too. And that's here on the Unafraid Show. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications, and tell a friend about the show. Let's get to it. Y'all make sure y'all hop in them comments because it is going to be spicy today. And we're going to start with the Ohio State versus Notre Dame game. And there's a bunch of narratives where, and we'll later on in the week talk about, break down the game, preview, prediction, and all of that. But I want to talk about the narratives of the game because one of the biggest ones that has come out in the last couple of days has been talking about just the watchability of the games. The people are tired of college football playoffs because the ratings came out. And the specific one that they're talking about is 17 million viewers who watched Notre Dame versus Penn State in the semifinal game, and the Ohio State Texas rating, and trying to compare that to the Ohio State Oregon Rose Bowl, which was a blowout game, but still had 28 million people watching. And I was like, who's not paying attention to it? And people don't want to discuss the nuance of things. They want a hot take reaction to it. Something's wrong, something's broken. Okay, let's just take the dynamic factors of the games. So you had the Rose Bowl, which is on New Year's Day. Pretty much everybody is off of work. It's the holiday. It's a common thing when people are off of work. They are going to watch more television than they do if they're not. So that's why you're going to get a big number in addition to having Ohio State and Oregon in that game. And the Rose Bowl itself is appointment viewing every single year. But then let's go to the Notre Dame Penn State game. That's on a Thursday night, starting at 4:30 Pacific, 7:30 Eastern time. What do you expect the number to be? You should be happy with this 17 million viewers who are watching that game. It's a game that's on ESPN compared to a network game. We are talking about ABC, NBC, CBS. Any of those are always going to do better than a cable television game, which is ESPN's game. Come on now. And the schedule playing on a Thursday and a Friday night is not conducive to getting the most people to watch. We know that from the regular season. You can put Ohio State on a Friday night game, it's going to do the numbers are going to pale in comparison to where if it's even if it's a noon Eastern kickoff, 9 a.m. Pacific kickoff on a Saturday compared to a Friday night, you're just going to get what you get. And people don't want to talk about that. They want there to be something broken. Oh, people are getting playoff fatigue. No, they're not. They're inconvenience fatigue. And yes, there does need to be something managed about the calendar when it comes to college football, but that's the truth. We also want to talk about another narrative, and this is Ryan Day versus Marcus Freeman. And I just want to point out that if how fun would it be to go back and look at all the tweets from the day that Ohio State lost to Michigan and the day that Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois? Because everybody wanted to fire Ryan Day at that point in time. Everybody wanted Marcus Freeman gone. Oh, they're not the guy to lead us to a national championship. They'll never win. They suck. They always choke. Everything in between. Even though Ryan Day's been there 6 years, Marcus Freeman's only 3 years. People want microwave results. And also, there's also emotion involved in it. People wanted Dan Lanning fired after the Rose Bowl. Oh my God. He'll never win. It's his third year, bro. Settle down and relax. There are very few coaches in the history of college football who have ever won prior to their sixth year coaching. And Marcus Freeman has the opportunity to do it. But this whole coaching narrative about this guy can't get it done and all of this, and it's the James Franklin principle. Dude has lost 13 straight games against top five opponents. But I look at this the same way I look at Kyle Shanahan with the San Francisco 49ers or Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. Do you know how hard it is to have a coach that puts you in position to win year in and year out? And yes, I do understand that in college football, there are certain rosters that are different than other people's rosters. So, yes, you're going to be able to just roll your helmets out and win some of these games, but there's more parity than there has ever been in the world of college football. So, winning now is significantly harder than it was. And both of these teams in Notre Dame and Ohio State in reaching the national championship have also done something spectacular. You have never had to win, never had to win 4 games to win a national championship after you've already completed your regular season. So this makes it the hardest one. And I told you guys, styles make fights. And how many teams do you believe could beat Oregon and all this? It doesn't matter because you know who's not in the national championship? The Oregon Ducks right now. But you know who else is not in the national championship? Oh, the SEC. The SEC is not in the national championship. What are we supposed to make of what is going on here, people? Oh, and people are dancing on the SEC's grave. Oh, they're like, oh, they're done. And this is funny because SEC people, I'm not sure if they understand why people are so aggressively against them and celebrate when they're losing games or when they're not performing at the level that they would have expected. I'm going to tell you why. There are two words. There is arrogance and there's dismissiveness. And the first one, arrogance, there's a right for the conference as a whole, not individual teams, right? Like Texas A&M, uh, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Tennessee, anytime recently, Florida. They got nothing to be dancing around about. Oh, SEC, SEC. Ole Miss, nothing to be dancing around about. But obviously, as a conference, it has performed tremendously well in the college football playoff era. Absolutely has. And so there's a legitimate arrogance there. But the problem is it's the dismissiveness of other football. It is the dismissive. Oh, we'll absolutely beat the hell out of any of them Big 12 teams. We'll beat the hell out of any of them ACC Big 10 teams. They can't hold a candle to us. Look at the recruiting rankings, which recruiting rankings are good, but that does not build a team that can win a national championship. And we saw that with Ole Miss this last year. So yes, recruiting rankings do matter in the macro, not in the micro on an individual player basis. But in terms of teams, yes, your better teams are going to have the better recruiting rankings in general. So, but it's the dismissiveness that makes people so angry because they watch their other football and they watch your football and they're like, yeah, some of these teams are flawed. So the question is the SEC done because they have not had a team in the national championship for the last 2 years? And the SEC is 2-5 in the college football playoff over the last 2 years. So is the SEC done? That's the question. Because last year I got called crazy when I said the SEC was no longer the odds on just best conference in college football. That there's competition in the room and it is going to be a year by year basis and no more of that. Oh, the SEC is just the best there is. Ask Lane Kiffin. He's gonna have to. He had to eat a lot of words that he said this entire season. Look, listen. There's different levels to this. But then the SEC turns around and goes 1-5 against the Big Ten in bowl games. And then you're 2-5 in the college football playoff over the last 2 years. And both of those wins are only by Texas. That's well, actually, yes, and that's this year. That's it. In the last 2 years, Texas has both wins, and they were this season. So that's back-to-back years with no team in the national championship. And the thing is that times have changed. And yes, there will be some times where the SEC comes up and is the best conference. But the SEC has a general problem this year that it has not, well, that it had kind of gotten fixed for a few years. It has a quarterback problem. It doesn't have the elite quarterbacks, which it had gotten for a few years. And right now, you're sitting with quarterbacks that are good, but not elite. I mean, I know a lot of people thought that Jalen Milroe was going to be more spectacular and dynamic with Kalen DeBoer at Alabama. Jackson Dart, he obviously did pretty well at Ole Miss. Ewers, he was kind of up and down at Texas. He was good, and then he was okay, and then he'd be good, but it wasn't elite quarterback play. Kentucky doesn't have it. Florida may have it next year, but they didn't have it this year. Tennessee didn't have elite quarterback play. They may have it next year, but not this year. Uh, Auburn, no. Texas A&M, no. All the Missouri, no. You're not getting elite quarterback play, and this is why the conference is not at the top of the food chain this season, and the Big Ten is. So you got Penn, and then the last 2 years, the teams that you have in the Final Four, you got Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas. Those were your Final Four. You had one SEC team in Texas, and that's it. Last year you had Washington, Michigan, Bama, and Texas. Now Texas was in the Big 12 then, so no, you don't get a chance to count them. And they've been taking early exits. Well, Bama took an early exit last year, and now it's different. So I do believe, and the funny part about this is that all the people that believed that the SEC team should have more teams in the college football playoff between South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama. Oh, we should have more in there. Look at what they did in bowl games. And yes, I know that it's different, but Alabama had their roster there significantly more than Michigan had, and Michigan don't even have a quarterback. And the half quarterback that they got in Davis Warren, he got hurt. So, do you guys believe that the SEC is done? I don't believe that they're done. They obviously have a lot of great players that are going to the NFL and some really great coaches in the conference. But the idea, and I do believe that that these last 2 years are starting to change the brain of people. Because now, and this year in particular, because the results that we got in the playoffs show styles make fights, which is I don't believe that there's a team that the only team that I believe that could beat Oregon in the college football playoff was Ohio State, and they beat them. So styles are going to make fights and change the whole trajectory of the tournament, much like it does in the college football, in the national championship in basketball and March Madness. That's why you had the 5, 6, 7, and 8 teams all advance to the top to the Final Four because things are different. The depth is different. The matchups are different. The locations of the game are different, and those are some of the things that you're going to have to reimagine in the second iteration of the college football playoff in 2026. Hmm, just saying. Next up, okay, so Dirk Koetter, former Arizona State head coach, former Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach. He was my offensive coordinator when he was in Jacksonville. Most recently, Boise State offensive coordinator. Well, Dirk Koetter decided to retire from coaching. And on his way out, he penned a letter and he wanted to make sure that he let everybody know about that he believed that Oregon had been tampering with some of his players or tampering with some of the Boise State players. I found this very interesting because in it, like that was a very specific accusation, right? Is it true? Who knows? We do not know. But here's what I do know. That's nasty work. That is absolute nasty work. So you mean to tell me that you don't believe that Boise State has contacted kids from like Portland State or UC Davis or Weber State or USC, the kid who just transferred, anybody like that? You don't believe that that's happened. Do you not believe that all the other schools are tampering, right? And here is how tampering typically works. That way we can be clear on what the definition of this is and what you guys think it is. Go in there and hop in the comments. Make sure that you like, subscribe, get notifications here on the Unafraid Show. I look at college football like relationships, right? If you have a wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whatever it is, if they're on social media or they're walking out in the earth, they go to work, they go to the grocery store, they go to church, they go to the park, wherever. Somebody is going to try to holler at them. Yes. Yes. Especially the more attractive that they are, the better personality, the funnier that they are, somebody is trying to get them goods too. And if somebody else is trying to get the goods, is the onus on the person that's being aggressive and trying to holler at them, or is the onus on the person who has a commitment to the other person? So that's the first thing. So if somebody tries to holler at your girl, is it the dude's fault, especially if you don't know him, or if she is receiving of that? If she's like, "Oh, really? Yeah, let me give you my phone number." Whose fault? Who's to blame now? But what a lot of tampering actually happens is that the kid or the kid's representative, family member, coach, quarterback coach, running back coach, DB coach, whoever, like his own personal trainer, they will reach out, or their handler, they'll reach out and just feel the waters. Okay, so if I did hop in the portal, how much would I be offered? How in demand am I? So it's not just coaches just popping in people's DMs. These are people who are actively, in most cases, actively searching out other offers and to know what is going on out there in the world. And then going back and say, "Oh, hey man, they said that they might want me." But here's the truth: Oregon has not offered any Boise State player that has hopped in the portal. Excuse me. Yet Oregon has not offered any Boise State player that's hopped in the portal. So is this true or is this not true? Because on one hand, the narrative has been Oregon has an unlimited NIL budget and they can just buy any player that they want. Number one, that's been proven not to be true. And number two, if that were true, you don't think that they would bid enough to get a Boise State player? The same Boise State who their head coach Danielson said, we not paying freshmen. You got to earn it is what you get and everything else. So if Oregon has an unlimited NIL, you don't think they can come in and just whatever you're paying a kid, $100,000, 150, and they're like, hey, 500, come on. That's hard to turn down, buddy. And if you think a lot of these players are turning down massive discrepancies in money, that ain't happening because people don't do it in real life. If you make $50,000 at work and somebody comes to offer you $350,000, you probably gone. That's just the reality of the situation. I mean, and we heard these allegations last year with Colorado State players saying, "Oh, we got offered $600,000 to leave their quarterback." Do you really believe that? Because Colorado State ain't paying that kind of money. Colorado State's a great university. Jay Norvell's doing a pretty good job over there, but that's not the type of money that their collective is putting out. That's just the truth. So, do we believe this, and how do we believe that these things are going on? Is it possible that somebody from Oregon contacted a player from Boise State at some point in time? Possibly. Is it more likely that the Boise State player engaged in trying to get an offer from somewhere else? Yep, that's probably the more likely scenario. And this is true at Georgia, at Alabama, at Clemson. Well, Clemson, now that they're in the transfer portal business, Miami. And Miami's locked up in a whole legal battle with a kid. Well, behind the scenes, for a kid that's trying to get out of his letter of intent right now. If you don't think that that's the normal practice, then I got something new to share with you people. But the last thing that we got to talk about today, there was a video that surfaced about NIL and the transfer, well, NIL. And I found it very telling. And it was also alarming and shocking because people clearly don't understand what's going on with NIL, and also that there's a lot of kids who are being taken advantage of by agents. The agents are not certified the way that they are in the NFL, and they are literally taking advantage of these kids. And so here is the video that I found absolutely horrifying, and then we'll discuss it.
So the understanding of, what we charge or whatever that may be, that's another thing I think is so interesting. It's so relative. The percentages, the industry standard, pretty much every NIL agency charges 20%. When people hear that, they think it's outrageous because the NFL and NBA standard is 3 to 5%, right? NBA is 5, NFL's 3. Really, where the relativity comes in is, we ran some numbers with some people that do analytics and stuff, like a um a $10 million deal in the NFL is relative to a $1 million deal in college football right now. And so if you do the numbers on it, 3% of 10 million is 300,000. 2% or 20% of 100 or a million is 200,000. So it's actually relatively less than what you're making as an agent at the NFL and NBA level.
What? What kind of math is this? Is this boy math? Is this girl math? Is this kid math? What kind of sense is this? And so this is Noah Reisenfeld, who is trying to claim this, right? And I will tell you this. And as a player who paid an agent in the NFL, who got a second contract, who also has dealt with some NIL stuff with my own kid and with other people's kids that I'm close to. This is highway robbery. This is usury damn near. This is 35% on a loan. On a hard money short-term loan. That's what this is. This is usury. 20% on an NIL deal with a collective is absolutely crazy because the player was already getting a deal. And players in the NFL, there's many more who are going without agents because they have figured out this is that agents don't get people paid. Players get players paid. Now, here is where agents come in and are very effective. Agents are a buffer between the player and the organization, particularly in negotiations, because feelings get in the way. The team feels rubbed the wrong way by the player. The player feels rubbed the wrong way by the team, and the agent acts like a filter. The agent can talk to the team and head problems off at the pass, negotiate settlements, and like mediate situations. So there is definitely room for agents and everything like that. But that's not 20%. That's like an agent getting getting 10% on an NFL deal for a guy who's drafted in the third, fourth round, second round. What kind of sense does that make? So, because the player was getting a deal already. So, the first thing is 20% on an NIL deal that with a collective from the school. Silliness. There is no reason to pay that at any point in time because you were already going to get that money. And you have a good idea of how much that you were going to get based upon the other offers that you have. So if one school is offering you $500,000 and then you say to the other school that you want to be at or that you are at, yo, I got offered $500,000. Here it is. Do you can you know? And they are either going to match it, exceed it, or say, you know what, we don't have that, but here is what we can do for you, and all of that. So there's no need. So why would an agent be getting 20% on the deal on that? Now, here's the other side of the coin is that 15 to 20% on a legitimate marketing deal that the agent brings to the table. Now, that part is not outrageous. This happens out in the real world for actors. This happens to professional athletes and everything. If an agent brings a deal to the table, let's say he brings a Delta deal to the table that's worth $500,000. Yes, you're probably going to pay in between 15 and 20% because that's not a deal that you were likely going to get yourself. But the bigger name of the player, let's say a Tom Brady should not be paying 20% on a marketing deal. He was probably paying around 10% because these deals are coming in the door. A lot of these are coming in the door already, and there's not a lot of solicitation from the agent. So that's the other part of it. The marketing deal versus the collective. That's like your NFL salary versus your marketing dollars. Now here's the other part that the dude said in the video that Noah Reinsfeld said in the video. He talked about 3 to 5% being the standard for the NBA. And it's not just the standard, these are maximums. In the NFL, the maximum that an agent can charge is 3%. However, though, not all players pay 3%. The bigger your contract is, you can negotiate down that percentage. I have heard of guys getting all the way down to 1% or like 0.75%. Yes, you can negotiate quarter of percents, 10%, all sorts of things. Because if let's say I'm Jalen Hurts and I am going to, and he got his second round deal when he was coming in the league, he probably was at 3% at that point in time, paying his agent 3%. But when it came down to getting damn near $200 million fully guaranteed, he's probably paying about 1% on that. That's just the difference because he's going to be like, hold up, hold up, hold up. I'm not paying 3% on a deal that 95% of this I did all the work for. That doesn't make any sense. And the equivalency of saying that a $10 million NFL contract is equivalent to a $1 million contract in college, sure. Let's say that that's right. Why would you pay an agent $300,000 on that in the NFL versus $200,000 for a $1 million deal in college? That is craziness. Craziness. And you got to understand the difference between a marketing deal and a regular NIL deal. That's a salary versus a marketing deal. Those are two separate percentages, and you should not be paying the same for both of them. You have to be willing to negotiate because as good as your agent may be, there are other great agents. And if you are sought after, you are not going to have a shortage of people that are willing to take between 1 and 20% from you. That's just the facts. You guys, I'm George Wrighster. This is the Unafraid Show, college football show. We got more coming this week, and make sure that you watch Unafraid Show Monday through Thursday in the afternoon. It will be an all sports show as well, and then we will have college football on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Sundays. You guys, peace out. I will catch you guys later. Yeah, hop in them comments and share.